I had a question that kind of follows up with something Michael introduced. Sorry. I had a question that follows up something Michael introduced regarding the 10th Amendment. There is currently afoot a nullification process that's been worked on in Texas and would involve the state legislature. And at first, I want to know if you're familiar with what this would entail and what your view would be if you were a member of the legislature, I guess, starting with John and then Mark and Ysidro.
As far as the nullification process. As far as the nullification process, I would look at all of that as far as going back to the basics. Is it more freedom, less freedom? Is it more liberty, less freedom? What is it going to do to our taxes? And that's how I would look at analyzing that situation or any other situation.
Can you elaborate a little bit? I'll be frank with you. I'm not sure I understand completely what you're referring to.
You know, under the principles established by Thomas Jefferson and James Madison in 1798, they said that if the national legislature passed laws that would impinge on the states in a manner that was unconstitutional, that the states had the right, if the legislature approved, to nullify the law, and it would not be overturned by the Supreme Court.
All right. Well, obviously, I think you answered your own question, and I won't speak for the other two gentlemen up here, but obviously, you have to, first of all, you've got to make a legal discernment, a legal decision as to how it's impacting the state. Okay. First and foremost, there's got to be an analysis done as to what the impact is, and if it's detrimental to the state, then the state takes the appropriate action, and make sure that there's not strings attached, or there's not coercion or blackmail or bribery coming out of Washington to force the state to do something either. And that's really what we get into from time to time, and that's what raises the level of frustration with us for many times.
I took an oath when I entered the military to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And that means to defend the 10th Amendment. And if there is a nullification provision, then I say that we defend all of the U.S. Constitution, not just part of it. Now here in Texas, we need to have the courage to say no to Washington, because we can. We're big enough to say no to Washington. We are the 8th largest economy in the world. We have our own aerospace industry. We have our own transportation industry. We have our own energy industry. We can say no to Washington. We don't have to be afraid to say no to Washington. We don't. And not only should we not be afraid, we should say no to Washington, like we've done a couple of times.
Good evening. My name is Mark Lawson. I'm interested in not enough? Is that better? Hello? Hello. I'm interested in, from you guys and also from our fellow citizens. I grew up having to answer questions in the Encyclopedia Britannica. I had to go through it every time. And I like that the Wikipedia on the internet is, if it was on a bookshelf, would be over 11 miles long. That the sheer amount of transparency and data that can come from the internet, is that something, yet as we publicly funded the research to create the internet, now I pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars just to have access for it. And I was wondering about the technology in our district, about what that's like. How many people actually have access to the internet? And how's it being involved in our schools? Do you have any idea? Or do you think it's a good... when Crawford Black was here, he's the head of Blackwater and used to be a CIA agent. He said if he could change one thing in the world, it would be to do away with the internet. And 200 people sort of sat shocked because they only heard about the meeting from that.
Donna, you may have to help me here a little bit, but there was a concept called the Technology Infrastructure Fund that was implemented years ago, and the basic purpose of it in Texas was to wire in for internet access and wireless access into all the schools in the state of Texas. What I would like to do is, I'm not sure that if the TIF fund is still in place, but if it is, I think it was a few pennies on your utility or your phone bill was where it manifested itself. Now that most all school districts have that infrastructure, what we're seeing now is school districts having to float bonds to be able to buy computers. And it's foolishness because we're using long-term money for a short-term asset. And that's no way to run a business. It's no way to run an educational institution. And so what I would like to see is a funding mechanism that may already be in place that was originally instituted to provide infrastructure. Now let's move it into the actual hardware acquisition. But Mark, back to your question, we're going to have to get more creative in how we deliver the education. I'm a proponent of distance learning. As our teacher shortage continues to decline, and we've got good teachers out there, and we can provide our students access, albeit through distance learning, I think we've got to explore those possibilities because we can handle a number of classes in probably a little less expensive way with the right instruction and the right access to the technology.
Well, I think the internet is here to stay, and I welcome it. I think it's very good. I think there's lots of good information on the internet. We have to be smart enough to separate the very good information on the internet from the not so good. That means that we have to do our due diligence as legislators, but school administrators, professors, teachers, they have to do their part as well so that we can benefit from the internet. The internet is not going to go away. The internet is going to continue to get bigger. Technology is going to be faster. You're going to be able to do things that were 10 years ago considered pure science fiction. Like, for example, you remember 20 years ago when in the Star Trek TV series, they would do a scan of the room and say, well, this is... people would kind of laugh at that and say, well, that's just science fiction. But today, they have a thermometer that you rub it against the forehead, and it gives you an accurate body temperature. See? It's, technology is not going to go away. It's going to continue to become more complex. It's going to become more useful, and we need to take advantage of it so that our school children can be competitive in a global market.
I'm going to, I got to do a little bookkeeping here, and then we're going to finalize one more question from this young lady up front. But I want to do a little bit of bookkeeping first, and then after you ask your last question, I'll allow them to have ending statements, and we'll finish up. Part of this process is, we as American Volunteers in Government, one of our jobs is we've provided this forum, and we've continued to provide this forum. You talk about vouchers, you talk about local, all of you have expressed local control. That doesn't happen with a small group like this. It means this group growing and getting people involved in the system. People are sitting at home going to make a decision on who they vote for based on the color of the yard sign that was nearby, not based on the substance that they've given here at a forum. And that is sad. Do your part, and I appreciate each and every one of you coming out here, whether we agree or not. You've done your part. You're coming out doing your homework. Spread the word. Get the word out there. Get people involved in the process. Get them involved locally. We have 3 Class Act candidates here, and I appreciate their honesty and their integrity here today. They've come across not as politicians today, but they've given us answers I believe in. And I appreciate that. Part of us to continue doing this group, these meetings and stuff, again, I've been putting this out of my pocket. We provide this room here. There's a cost. I would appreciate any donation y'all make. On our website, there's a PayPal. You can pay with a credit card, or Kyle or I or Adrian will gladly take a donation. Again, we want to continue this. We think it's a great forum. We think it's a great opportunity for you as the public to come out and get in front of the candidates. Tonight we have multiples. We have Ronnie O'Neill that's a candidate here for sheriff. We have Todd Klein that serves currently. John Leonard left. I hope I'm not missing anybody. But again, we appreciate y'all. I'm going to have one more question, then we'll allow each one of the candidates to close up. And again, thank y'all. Yes, Beatrice.